Well, AgriSA is holding a two-day conference in Pretoria. It will release its first report on transformation in the agricultural sector. For more on this, we're joined by Christo van der Rheede, who is the Deputy Executive Director at AgriSA. Good evening, Mr. van der Rheede. Thanks very much for talking to us this evening. From where you sit as AgriSA, is the agricultural sector transformed?
For us, any transformation within the sector is of a national imperative. But we need to make sure that whatever we do in the sector is sustainable and that it contributes to food security and creating a more inclusive industry. Yes, the sector is a very challenging sector because most of our members are in far-flung areas and it's not very responsive in terms of transformation. But what we have done was to look at what the various commodity sectors are doing. Grain SA is doing remarkable work, also the wool growers in South Africa, the cane growers as well as Sugar SA. So a number of our industries has responded very, very appropriately, and they've given us information about what they are doing in terms of farmer development. And we are certainly very, very impressed. And this lays a very solid foundation for us to build on this.
But is the sector transformed or not?
The sector, there is certainly attempts by the various commodities, and they're doing quite a lot. We have spent just over 300 million rand during the 2016-2017 financial year, and we have assisted more than 100,000 black developing farmers throughout the country. And we have seen lots and lots of very successful stories, especially with the wool growers. In the Eastern Cape, more than 5,000 black farmers are now exporting their wool via the commodity to places like China. We have seen how Grain SA has developed also thousands of emerging farmers, bringing them into the value chain and making sure they've got market access. So yes, those attempts must be applauded, and it lays a solid foundation for us to build on.
Well, the fact that you cannot answer this question directly perhaps tells one that there are problems, very serious problems.
Problems such as what?
Transforming the agricultural sector.
No, but I've just explained what the sector is doing to rectify that situation. We are working in tandem with government. Many of our commodities are working with the Jobs Fund. They're getting funding from various sources. They use their own sources. Remember, the sector contributes more than 400 million annually to the Skills Levy Fund. That money is utilized to develop our farm workers, to develop new farmers. We also know that more than 500 million rand is collected through industry levies. And that money is also utilized for transforming the sector. Yes, I'm the first one to admit that we still have a long way to go. But I think that we need to support each and every venture. I've been to quite a lot of very, very impressive win-win partnerships in the Eastern Cape, where your big cooperatives are joining hands with emerging farmers and making sure that their farming practices are built on sound commercial footing. And we've seen how many of once dilapidated farms and unprofitable farms, farms that were on the bank of bankruptcy, are now profitable farms. And that for me is real transformation.
What would you say are the biggest stumbling blocks to transformation?
The biggest stumbling block, in my opinion, is the fact that many of our black farmers do not have title deeds on the land. And we have seen also millions and millions of hectares of land being transferred to communal property associations and to emerging black farmers. But none of those people have title deeds in their hands. And I'm of the opinion that our commercial farmers have the luxury to go to a bank and they can offer that title deed as collateral. We do not have the same situation when it comes to our black farmers. And this must now really be addressed, because if you farm on land that you do not own, then you're certainly going to run into serious trouble to access finance. Another issue is also the fact that our extension services are not doing what they're supposed to do to support our emerging farmers. Most of our emerging farmers are now reliant on our commodities. I believe the solution lies in a win-win partnership between government and the agricultural sector, the private sector, and if we can strike a deal and roll out a national strategy where government, together with the commodities, assist our black farmers, then we will see a very, very transformed sector within the space of the next 5 years.
Are you able to share with us just some of the things that you have found in the journey as you were preparing for this report on transformation, which you are going to release?
Yes, what we have done was we've visited a whole lot of projects all over the country. We've also engaged with a lot of black farmers who are beneficiaries of these development projects, and I was absolutely blown away by the positive response and the positive work that is currently happening within the industry. I've seen also data from independent researchers that show that the socio-economic conditions of many of our black farmers, and especially their households, have been positively influenced by the fact that they are now part of a value chain, that they are producing high quality products. In the case of Wool SA, they produce high quality wool for the export market. We've seen a tremendous change in household food security. We've seen a tremendous change in the fact that people do have money to save. We've also seen how people now can buy a house or a car. And the most amazing thing is the fact that people now can send their children to university or to school, and they can pay for school fees, and they can buy a school uniform. So there's not only economic benefit when it comes to real and sustainable commercially based transformation, but there's also the social economic aspects. And if we can get this right, if we can roll this out on a much larger scale, I bet you we can really alleviate poverty, unemployment to a large extent in rural areas. But currently, funding is limited. Also, the fact that we do not get very good cooperation sometimes between your government departments and the commodity sectors, that remains a challenge. The issue of trust between public sector and private sector is something that we need to deal with. But I believe that this report opens a whole lot of doors for us, and it also lays a solid foundation on which we can build good and sustainable agricultural practices, especially going into the future.
Mr. van der Rheede, thank you very much for talking to us this evening.